Knowledge for Men, episode 77.
Welcome to knowledgeformen.com, where you're going to grow into the man you want to be. Your life will never be the same again. I can guarantee it. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Everything you need to create an exceptional website. It's the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website, blog, e-commerce store, or online portfolio. For a free 14-day trial and 10% off your first purchase, go to squarespace.com and use offer code KNOWLEDGE, or simply go to squarespace.com/knowledgeformen. It's a great platform for anyone getting started or looking to switch over to something easy to use with a great design. Again, that's offer code KNOWLEDGE or squarespace.com/knowledgeformen for a free 14-day trial and 10% off.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Pam Levin. She's the founder of passionatelypam.com, whose mission is to inspire others to optimize their health through a balanced lifestyle, positive thinking, and practicing their life's purpose.
Hi, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Of course. Let's go ahead and jumpstart in with a favorite success quote, something you've lived by, and if you can explain why.
Okay, well, I love Rumi, who's a poet. He's a Sufi poet, and one of the things that I love that he said, and which is actually posted on my kitchen wall, so I will read it to you because it's a little lengthy. I don't know it by heart, but it goes like this. You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You were not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly. That speaks to me greatly. I believe we all have potential to do what is really our essence, what's part of us. And when we click into that, it actually serves our health. And that's what I'm about. And that's what I'm trying to help people understand. And it's going to benefit their body.
You often hear like following your passion and the money will follow, like financial reasons to find your passion, right? But you're coming from the angle that following your passion and the health will follow. And that when you're doing your bliss, you're going to be healthier, happier, mentally, just in a better place.
Yes, by helping people see the bigger picture of this paradigm, because we all talk about great movement, exercise, eating nourishing foods, and we forget about the other parts of the paradigm. And a big part of this is emotion and clicking into what makes you happy and helping people understand that there's a biochemical response for our bodies when we are happy. So that's how that poem relates to me, and I think it really is a beautiful way to look at life and what you have the potential to do with your life.
Okay, and with that quote, we get to learn a little bit about you, but we want to learn more. So, Pam, tell us how you got started with what you do and share with us your journey.
Okay, I'll make it as short and sweet as I can. My background is actually I was schooled academically in engineering and business. And after graduate school, I moved to Chicago. I'm from Detroit originally. I grew up near 8 Mile Road, near M&M country, for any of those who know the rapper, and grew up there in a really very middle-class area, very hard-working Polish family. But went to graduate school, and after grad school at the University of Michigan, I moved here to Chicago and worked for a very large real estate developer to build buildings. And that was my first really, really big job to understand how important creating a foundation is for anything we build. And I didn't understand that until years later. I looked at it as a job and my first step in a wonderful career, but I didn't see the bigger picture of it until a little bit later when I gained a little bit more wisdom about life. But what happened was I went through some personal changes in my own life and ended up leaving that business and looking to do something else with my life. And I loved the health and wellness realm and was able to start on the teacher's path with Chopra Center in San Diego, which is probably not too far from, well, you're in Northern California, but
No, I'm in San Diego.
Yeah. Oh, you are. I was thinking
Yep, San Diego.
Okay, so you're right there. Okay. So I've been out at the Chopra Center a lot and studied a lot of Ayurvedic and holistic health there, and just getting to know the wonderful folks in that program and having a really bigger picture now of life and health and how it all fits together. And that's how I decided it was really my messaging and what I wanted to help show people in this lifetime of mine, and to help people, help them understand more about themselves and their health and wellness. So that's where I've landed so far.
So, yeah, what was the transition from working in a big real estate company with a graduate degree from the University of Michigan, which I'm sure was paying you well, to diving into health and healing?
Yeah, I always was a pretty healthy person in terms of being active and trying to keep my health in check and do good things for my body. But I think it was more the spiritual part that after I went through some situations in my own life, I went through a divorce, which obviously no one had planned on, and at least I didn't in my lifetime. But unfortunately, it happened. And I really had to spend a lot of time with me, my own self, Pamela, passionately Pam, and get to understand her and figure out what she really wanted and why things happen. And it was a very, very challenging time. And I went on this kind of spiritual quest to figure me out. And in doing so, that's how I landed at the Chopra Center and met a lot of people that just so inspired me, and decided that this was really my calling. It's really my calling, and I'm just very, very excited about what I do. And so that's kind of where I am right now, and hoping to bring that same feeling of really a lot of passion and happiness to others.
So what did you find? You said you're spending time with myself. What did you find there at the spiritual center?
That Pamela is a very compassionate woman, and I have an ability, I do believe, as an avid learner, I also have a great ability to teach people. And I think that the world is ready for that change, especially in healthcare. I believe that part of my lesson was learning to, I guess, show people another perspective of things. I wasn't even good at seeing the perspective. I had to learn it. I had to learn why things happen in life to me. And you don't always have the answers. It's not like they're in front of you. Sometimes you've got to kind of look behind you and learn from the lessons. And I did that, and I had to learn how. And I thought, gosh, if I could do this and move forward with a lot of grace and passion and excitement, so can others. And it's really about that. It's about learning. And that was a big lesson for me. It was a big challenge, but a huge lesson. And I'm so inspired from that. And I think when you go through a challenge like that, no matter what it is, whether it's big for you or little for you, whatever the challenge, you get to a point in your life where you feel like, oh my gosh, I've come through this with shining colors. And there'll be more challenges. This won't be the only one, but look what I can help people understand that may be going through something similar or may just have other challenges, and how it will affect their body. Because when I was going through all my stuff a few years back, it affected my body physically. There were physical effects. And I've learned through that experience, which was not pleasant, I've learned through the teachings of the Chopra Center and more the holistic health, that your emotion and how you process it, and if you don't allow that sort of anger, frustration, sadness, whatever those emotions are that don't serve you, if you hold them in, they can be extremely detrimental to your body.
Wow. So you're suggesting that the mental body and our emotions can play a large role in our overall health, and it can actually show up in the form of pain and, I'm sure, different diseases and depression.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And your body can only hold so much of it. And that's exactly what happens when emotion that doesn't serve you is held within. And unfortunately, Andrew, a lot of us in the Western kind of world don't see that part of it as well. We're not so open to understanding it, but many of the Eastern cultures are. And that is why a lot of the teachers of Hinduism and the Chinese medicine and Ayurveda embrace the whole mind-body spirit connection. It's all together. It's one. It's treating the body in unison, not just treating the symptom. And it makes a difference.
Yeah, that's huge right there, is, not just taking a pill to treat one symptom, but treating the entire body as a whole to heal itself.
Yeah, it's really big. And I know that sometimes we just get lost in the quick fix, and we want to get rid of the pain we feel or the uncomfortableness we feel or whatever it is we're going through. that will manifest through our body, through physically, because our body gets to a point where it just can't, how can I explain it? It's the bank is overflowing with negativity. It's like depleted of good stuff. So it has to manifest itself physically. And it does that through disease. And that's exactly the point. And unfortunately, I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg here in the West and trying to really understand how that all works. There is a author and a scientist by the name of Dr. Candace Perth, Perta. She's been around for a while, but she wrote a book called The Molecules of Emotion. And it was actually, she wrote it way back, but a very, very dynamic book. And it really explained for the first time ever how emotion, how the biochemicalness of emotion affects our body. And when that emotion is not good, it does our body harm. So there's science behind this. It's not just all, stars and moon, and it's not just touchy-feely stuff. There's a reality there.
And I think as men in our society, it can be seen as kind of like a sign of strength to hold in your emotions. And not that I recommend that, but it just seems like in society we kind of respect that here in Western culture. So what are the health implications of men if they continue to suppress their emotions?
That's very true. And I think that a lot of that stems from way back in our evolution, when men were probably more served as the hunter-gatherers and needed to take more risk to go out and gather, kill, to provide food, where women were the more typically, stayed at home, stayed back, cared for the young. And that's that's so innate in us. That's from our development. It's nothing that, it's years and years and years of biology. So that's kind of where it stemmed from. But then, obviously, as we develop as a people, there are cultural stereotypes that keep men more believing that they have to suppress emotion and hold it in. And then there's our own family conditioning, how each of us were raised as children and what our parents taught us and how they were raised and how their parents were raised. So it can go pretty far back. And some of it is innate in us. It's part of our biology. And then there's a part of it that is actually learned from our parents. So unfortunately, men don't do as well, not all men, but generally not as well as getting in touch with their emotion, or maybe they do feel it, and I'd be happy to hear your comments on this, but maybe it's not, like you said, allowed. They don't feel comfortable in expressing it as much as we do. And I think we're wired a little differently as women. We just are. We are, our brains are wired a little more emotionally, and we are okay about expressing it, where the males just aren't. And they found, interesting enough Andrew, they found that these differences are not so much they're really, the studies that they found that the gender differences, it's dependent upon gender, not your sexual orientation. So it doesn't matter what sexual orientation you have, it's more based on your gender if you are able to express these emotions or not. And it just gives rise to learning to get in touch with that and, be able to feel it and know that it's okay.
Right. I think that, if you see me crying, or, I'm depressed or I'm sad, I think you could view this as a sign of weakness, just from the external. If you didn't know me, just like, oh, he can't control himself. Like, he's got a lot of emotions. And what I think is that when you hold in your emotions, you're not really revealing your true self, and you're not revealing to others what's really going on. You kind of have like this front or this persona in front of you that shows and displays that you're successful and that everything is working good. And when people ask, how are you doing? You're very quick to say, oh, I'm doing great. Things are going well. Business is good. How are you doing? And you shift the conversation back to them. And I think when you're doing that, they hit the shield and you blocked it. Like, you successfully blocked, the blow, or what you perceive as a blow. And when you really reveal what's going on, you're showing your true self, your authentic self, and that's when you can really connect with other people. Right. Is when you're vulnerable, which in my opinion is a sign of courage and not weakness.
Yeah, that's probably One of the top things I would say is that vulnerability, and that's hard even for women. So that's to me is hard all the way around. Just showing your soul, showing yourself, and not being ashamed and not being fearful and not being defensive about it. Here's who I am, and I'm human, and hey, I make mistakes, and I may make more, but I'm willing to learn, and this is me. I think what the studies have shown, unfortunately, is particularly with men, when their emotions are suppressed, they tend to exhibit signs of high blood pressure, more heart attacks. The signs of that suppression manifest more physically for them through their body. Whereas with women, when the women are holding an emotion, they get more anxiety, maybe more depression. It's more mind-centered. It's just interesting how each gender deals with that emotional component. I find that's just kind of fascinating. And I do think you were right about being vulnerable and about being authentic. And as we grow as a people and as a culture and as the generations even ahead, the future generations, I do believe men are going to be more willing to open up, and for their own good. And because maybe they'll start to feel more comfortable with it as well.
And do you have any examples of things guys could start doing to really start releasing these emotions?
Obviously, there are many ways you can connect with people, not only in your social circle, but in your family. If you need to talk to counselors or clergy or somewhere where you feel that you can be expressive and tell people what's going on and not, again, be finger pointed or looked down upon or feel weak. And it does take a little practice. I think I was also reading a while back that when men, particularly, and they did name men, and I don't have the exact research to share with you the exact data right now, but I do recall they were saying that men who withhold their emotions tend to engage in more risky behavior, which was really interesting to me. And it meant like, maybe picking up a vice, I don't know, drinking, smoking, more addictive type behavior, sexual addiction, things like that. And I wish I had the site, the exact, data site to share with you, but it was a very interesting article. And I think that as men get more comfortable with being themselves and kind of sitting with themselves, they will start to gravitate toward feeling comfortable with sharing themselves with others. And as far as a real particular way of doing that, I think it's going to vary for each person, but they have to find someone they kind of trust and they feel that they won't be judged by whatever they reveal.
Yeah, and with that article you're mentioning, it seems like the emotions built up over a long period of time.
Yeah.
They could be playing itself out through alcohol, substance abuse, and sex addictions.
Yeah, I think it's like the bubble, has to burst sort of. And so it does. And maybe that's, what some people choose. But see, the point is those choices aren't going to really mitigate what they feel. Maybe the anger, the pain, the frustration, the sadness. It's just going to create another bubble or another wave of bad feelings eventually. It may temporarily give relief, is what I'm saying, but it doesn't resolve anything.
Right. It just kind of grows, actually.
Yeah, because nothing's really resolved within that person. There's a temporary fix or a temporary, endorphin or oxytocin, a temporary hormonal high just from that release or whatever it is they're doing, whatever choice it is. And again, this, we're talking about men here because men are more suppressive of emotion, but this can go for women as well. And it has. And unfortunately, it's about choices, poor choices.
And it seems like a lot of those addictions, it can play itself out in any form of instant gratification. It could be in like foods, it could be in like watching movies, like porn. It can be anything that just solves a problem very quickly. And then that's why it becomes addictive, because it solves the problem temporarily. So you have to keep doing it in order for you to maintain that level of calmness.
Yeah. And I think men just, because we're focusing on men can really, if they learn to understand what emotion they're actually feeling and why they're feeling it and what's it about and what's it really about, what's it deeper about, not just I'm feeling sad, but why, what's this all about, and question it. And because it becomes more physical with men, maybe they can express that physicalness in healthier ways through sports, through a hobby that's more physical, rather than choosing something that's going to eventually hurt their body in the long run.
Right. I've been doing Bikram yoga, actually. And they say that 30 days of Bikram yoga will give you a new mind. And they say 60 days of Bikram yoga will give you a new body, like a new spine and losing weight, stuff like that. And they say 90 days of Bikram yoga will give you a new life.
Meditation is wonderful. It takes time to do it, in terms of it takes time to get to a place where you feel it's working for you. I know many people that, and I meditate, but not as often as I probably could or should. It takes practice, like anything, to train your brain and to get to a spot where you feel grounded and you feel comfortable and you're sort of at a peaceful. But for some people, meditation is a great way to do that, to let go of a lot of the things they feel that aren't really serving their body.
Yeah, I think meditation and yoga is a good platform to really cultivate that self-growth. And Pam, what else do you see, how about building, strong romantic relationships? How can this allow for growth in men?
I guess I'll share with you because it's been helpful to me. It's something that I've experienced. And I think if we experience something, it's always, we can share it in a little better way. It's very authentic for us. As I mentioned, I used to build high-rise buildings, very tall office buildings, 50, 60 stories high. And in learning about the building process, the most fundamental thing is that foundation, creating that foundation of the building. And building a building, one of these high-rise buildings, takes, about 2 to 3 years to actually break ground. And before the ground's even broken, there's all the deals that are made. You have to, obviously, hire construction people. You have to get tenants, and you've got to get that building pre-leased. You've got to do the financing. There's a lot of parts that come together in order for that building that you see, and especially in a city like Chicago, there's a lot of high-rise buildings. So what is essential from the very start is building that platform of a really, really strong foundation so that tall building has the strength, really, physically, the physical strength to hold it up. And for me, that's a really good analogy in a relationship. It needs a great platform. It needs a very strong platform. I think that's something we all, both men and women, can do better at. And it begins with that understanding. Whether you're in a relationship with a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. The point is that foundation needs to be built by both of you, and it needs to be very strong, because if that's a relationship that you believe in and that you both want to continue, there's going to be challenging times, rocky times, and that foundation is needed to be there to hold it up. And it sounds, again, really simple, but it is extremely important.
I like the analogy. I'm just thinking it's relevant to me here in California where there's earthquakes. It's like if you don't build a strong foundation for that building, it's going to crumble. And I think in relationships, they could be lacking strong foundations. I know that I've encountered a few where a turbulent time came and the foundation wasn't strong enough to hold that turbulence, and the relationship crumbled as a result. However, in relationships where you have a strong foundation and that turbulent time comes, or quote unquote like an earthquake, then it's going to survive. And in fact, in relationships, those challenging times, it's going to make your relationship stronger, and it's going to mold you, and it's going to even build a stronger foundation for the next one.
It does. Yeah, it does. And we don't realize it that way. I guess we don't always look at it that way, because sometimes we just, how do I say, we get in a relationship and it just kind of starts, and no one really thinks about it as an actual project. And I hate to say it that way. It sounds like, it sounds like a business.
Right.
Well, the point is, if two people are really going to commit to it, you both have to be committed to it. And I think that has been one of my lessons. Some of the mistakes I've made in my lifetime, and I say that very openly. And unfortunately, I'm not really proud of that. But I do believe that if two people are going to want that relationship, they both have to want it. They both have to intend it, and they both have to show action toward it, meaning they have to work at it. It can't be a one-way street. And unfortunately, sometimes it is. One person wants it more than the other, and that person can push and shove and do everything they want to try to keep that relationship intact. But if the other person is not on the same page, it's not going to hold water. It's not going to work. And unfortunately, I've had to learn that the hard way in a couple cases. And that is very key, that both people go into it understanding that there's going to be some work involved, that it's not always going to be about, me. It's going to have to be a lot about giving and compassion and understanding, and obviously communication, so important, being able to talk to each other, and not only in the good times, but when times are shaky. And that's when it counts. That's when that foundation comes into play.
Yeah, communication is really the key to a successful relationship, and the silent treatment doesn't really serve you or the relationship at all.
Yeah, and that's sort of how it goes back to this, holding an emotion, because sometimes in relationships, if we can't express ourselves or we choose not to, and one of the other partners pulls it within, it ends up eating them alive. And that's not what we want. So it's really all tied in together. And the thing with relationships that is so important to understand is, again, being open with each other. And it's not always easy to do that. But I think that there is potential to do it, and there is a possibility. And most of us, I think you mentioned it, being vulnerable. Most of us don't want to be vulnerable. In a relationship, you better be vulnerable. You better be. If you want a great relationship, you better let your partner know who you are, and this is the person, and accept them for who they are. Not to say people can't change, because change can only happen by the person that is living it, that you can't really change someone else, that. But at least be willing to show that other individual who you are and your soul and your essence. Sounds trite, but it's very important. And what ultimately happens is when we don't do that, when we covet, when we're afraid to show, or whatever the reason may be, there ends up being pain in the relationship, or sadness, or frustration, or a shutdown, and it doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve the person going through that. It doesn't serve the partner, and it certainly doesn't serve the relationship.
Yeah, it's like as if we walk into a relationship and we have like armor with anybody. Just it can be a business relationship or it can be an intimate relationship. And it's like we walk around with armor and we have a shield up and we're trying to protect ourselves and not let them see who we really are or how we're really feeling. And we have the shield to deflect any type of attack from the other person. But really it's about dropping the shield, taking off the armor, and just revealing your naked self, how you really feel and who you really are.
It's really a good analogy, but I think what happens, Andrew, is if you have been in a bad relationship, or if you've been hurt from a relationship, or, something disappointed or frustrated, it's harder each time with each relationship to say, okay, well, I was hurt last time, but I'm going to go in this naked, I'm going to go into this one and not wear the armor. Well, that becomes a challenge in itself, because now you're going to be a little more guarded. But so the point isn't, it's to be more discerning, not just guarded, to be more discerning, to learn what went wrong maybe in the past, and take that knowledge with you into the next relationship, and still be open and not have to worry that you're going to get your heart cut out or your heart hurt, but learn from what your mistakes were, or the mistakes of that relationship. Not that they were necessarily yours, but I always try to say, take ownership, take 100% ownership for everything you encounter in life. Whatever situation, you own it, because you always have the power to change it and to move in or out of it. And in a relationship, when we've been probably in a prior one that maybe didn't go the way we wanted, it's much harder to go into a new relationship bearing our soul and bearing ourselves. It's difficult.
Pam, do you feel like breakups can sometimes be sometimes the biggest lessons are found about ourselves after a breakup and about relationships?
How about yes, 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 and yes? I'm being silly, but yeah, yes, to all that. It's extremely true. If we're at a point, though, if we're at a point in our lives where we can look at it that way, because not everyone will walk out of a relationship and just say what you just did. There's a lot of blame placing going on. They don't want to see the truth. They don't want to see the other person's perspective. And that's not how I would look at things. I try to look at things and look back and go, okay, what went wrong? How did it affect me? What could I have done different? How did I contribute to that particular situation? And that person will be one of my greatest teachers. That's I know it's a lot of people when I tell them that, they're like, yeah, right. And I'm like, that's what I do. That's how I look at it. It's not not to say I don't have pain from it. Not to say that I don't have sadness when things don't work out or I'm disappointed. Yeah, I'm human, of course. But I'm not going to live in the past. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I think living in the past is the fastest way to just kill yourself. That's harsh, but I mean, if you are living in the past and you're not even aware of the present, and if you're not aware of the present, then you're not moving towards anything great in the future. You're simply not even conscious.
Yeah.
So any advice for guys to really focus on being more present in their life?
Yeah, that is very important, and it's really important just emotionally because you don't want to hold that baggage in you, that emotional baggage that you just went through if the relationship didn't work out. It's not going to serve you. It's going to ultimately, biochemically, it creates chemicals in your body, your own pharmacy, that cause cellular inflammation. That's the best way I can say it. So your cells don't like it. When they are constantly exposed to that, they march to a new drummer, and he's not kind of like the gangbanger, okay, if you want to say it that way. It's not going to serve your whole body. And I think that to move out of something, we talk about letting go emotionally, is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It feels awful when you're in it, horrible, I mean, more than words could say. And whether it's a relationship breakup or any devastating thing in your life that has happened, it is absolutely key to let that go. And it takes time, and it takes trying to see the bigger picture of why this went down, why this happened. You know, it's not about, poor me, I'm a victim. Oh my God, I can't live through this. It's about saying, this was pretty crappy. I'm going to get through this. I can do it. There's a lesson here for me. I'm here on earth for a bigger reason, and my life's ahead of me. And what do they say? One door closes, another opens. That's so true. It's kind of like the universe is waiting for you. Okay, but it's not going to handhold you through everything. You're going to learn some lessons, and if you don't learn them, you're going to be stuck, and it's not going to be good.
So you're saying basically take the lessons from that painful experience and then move forward. But if you don't find the lesson, then you're going to be living in that past.
Yeah, the world's really waiting for you. I mean, it really is. And we just have to trust in that. We have to trust in it. And sometimes we don't, and it takes some practice and learning, but it's available.
Good. And now, Pam, let's move into the knowledge round. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. Are you ready, Pam?
Maybe. Okay. All right, go ahead. We'll see what goes here.
Have you ever tried to set up a website and just give up? Did you get overwhelmed? Was there just so much content available that you just put that project aside? Well, Squarespace makes it easy to quickly get a professional site up and running so you can focus on doing the things that you like doing and not coding. Squarespace is constantly improving their platform with new features, new designs, and even better support. They have beautiful designs for you to start with and all the style options you need to create a unique website for your personal taste and brand. It's incredibly easy to use, and if you need support, I know Squarespace has an amazing support team that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They even have a great support team with over 100 employees. I guess in New York City, the office has been codenamed the Care Bear Lair. And that's not it, guys. You can get started for as little as $8 a month, and this includes a free domain name if you sign up for a year. It's a great deal, and that includes hosting, you guys. Every design automatically includes a unique mobile experience that matches the overall style of your site. So your content will look great on every device, every time. That's really big, guys. Mobile is the future. If you sign up for Squarespace, make sure to use offer code KNOWLEDGE or simply go to squarespace.com/knowledge for men to get 10% off your first purchase and to show support for Knowledge for Men. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime.
All right, Pam, what advice would you give to someone who's feeling lost or unsure of their purpose?
Spend time with themselves. Find time, quiet time, meditate, go dance your heart out, read a book, just whatever it is where you can spend time that's quiet and learn about yourself. That's the first important thing.
Well said. And Pam, what was holding you back from becoming who you are now today?
What was holding me back? Nothing. Nothing is holding me back. It's all a great journey for me. And I'm not to dismiss your question, but I never felt like that. I always felt like I was a little bit before my time in a way, and look at everything just in a beautiful pattern. It's all happening exactly how it's supposed to. It really is.
I like that. And Pam, how would you explain Ayurvedic health to a newcomer?
No, that's a great question. Ayurvedic health is about a 5,000-year-old study of health and wellness and well-being. It's very, very ancient, probably even before Chinese medicine, and it really looks at the body as a whole thing. The mind, your body, your spirit are all one. So it treats the body, it treats an ailment, I should say, that way. It doesn't just look at one component and try to resolve the symptom. It looks way deeper into many of the facets and many things that are happening to you, both emotionally, both physically, and tries to help you attain greater wellness and continued wellness by treating on all those levels. And also, again, I do believe that a lot of the symptoms that we have are stress-related. There's probably something in our life that we're not dealing with well. We're not handling it well. We're not processing the emotion well. And our body is gonna talk to us. And sometimes it's going to yell at us before we get the picture. So that's a little bit more of what Ayurveda does, and it tries to understand where you are in life and what all the things that are happening to you shows the relationship between the events, your situation, and what your body is manifesting. It treats it on different levels, not just on the physical body.
Wow. I was actually just reading this book, and it's with a psychologist, Dr. Wise, in Northern California, and he says that when a doctor would accidentally diagnose a patient with cancer, and it's an accident, it's a wrong diagnosis, that patient would actually start to show symptoms of cancer within the body. So the body reacted to that diagnosis.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens because you start to fear it. In fact, I've said this before on someone else had asked me about, cancer and disease, and I don't like to call it cancer. And it's just my sort of funky way of looking at things. I call it cellular inflammation because that's really how it starts. Your cells get inflamed. They don't like what's going on. And that's the onset of what can become cancer. But allopathic doctors in the West, that's what they know. And so that's how they label it. And in doing so, it does produce fear in people. People get very scared. And instead of helping them to heal, sometimes it goes the other direction.
Yeah, and in that example, when the doctor would tell the patient, hey, we made a mistake and you don't have cancer, the symptoms that patient had developed would almost disappear overnight.
Yeah, immediately disappear.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff there. And can you name a person who's had an impact on your life, maybe a mentor? What did he or she tell you that really inspired you?
Well, for me, it's probably been, Dr. Deepak Chopra, just because I've studied with him and a lot of what I've learned through the school there and the teachings, the workshops have just influenced me so greatly. And it's just changed my whole perspective of how I look at wellness, how I look at my life, even not just my physical wellness, but how I see my world. That's huge. That is huge. How I perceive things. Because perception is deceiving. And the way you see something happen, the way you see an event or situation occur, and how you decide in your own mind through your own filters what that means to you can mean the difference between stress and no stress. So I do believe that Deepak Chopra is probably one of my greatest mentors, and I've learned a lot from him. I mean, as far as any personal guidance, it's more about understanding myself and that I have a purpose in this world. And my greatest joy, my greatest happiness is going to be achieved by finding that, clicking into it, practicing it, and also understanding that we have a contribution. So gratitude, being kind. I mean, just very simple things that we need to practice more. And it's more on the perspective of how I view things, because it is a determining factor on how your body perceives if it's stressful or not.
Yeah, just like the earlier example where a breakup can either be this devastating experience for years, or it can be this moment that you just learn from it and you start to move on.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not a moment, but sometimes it's a couple weeks or a couple months. But
You're right. And yeah, a couple months more realistic.
in all seriousness, all kidding aside, it is true, and that's exactly what we need to understand and move through.
All right. And Pam, what are your 3 most influential books, and explain why?
Okay, the Deepak Chopra book, but that's just one of them. He has many books. It was called The Spontaneous Fulfillment of Desire, and it talked just about that, what I just mentioned about fulfilling your purpose and what was important to you. I love that book. It's very inspirational. Currently, I'm reading Thrive by Arianna Huffington, which I'm finding is a great book. And she talks a lot about, it's the owner and founder of Huffington Post. And Arianna speaks a lot, too, about burnout and what it means to have success in our lives and how that paradigm of success needs to change, because she went through it. And it's just a really great story. Very, very instrumental. Just a wonderful way for everyone to think about what's important in life and what success means. So that's number 2. I'm trying to think what else I read. There's another book I like, that complete name of it, I think it was called like Firestarter Sessions. Do you know this book? It's by Danielle Laporte. And it's a really fun book. I love her. I think she's a great inspiration to people in business, people who are trying to find their passion, because there's so much talk about passion. And I mean, obviously, my website is Passionately Pam. And there, I do believe, is a reason to find that, because for me, it relates to the bigger picture of someone's health. It doesn't mean you have to take your passion and make it into your business. But Danielle Laporte has some wonderful ways and stories and guides to help you click into what sparks you. And that's why she calls it, I think, the Firestarter Sessions. It's starting that spark in you, finding that flame. In Ayurveda, we call it your Agni. Agni, it's your fire. And we all need a fire. We need that. That gives us good health. That actually gives us good digestion, believe it or not. And it makes us burn. It makes us have a bright light in us. Makes us want to go out and do things. It's that desire. So I wish I could say I'm reading more fiction, but unfortunately right now I'm reading a lot of nonfiction. So it's just where I am right now.
All right, and I got a fun scenario here for you. Imagine you had 60 seconds with your 20-year-old self, Pam. What would you tell her to do, and what would you tell her not to do?
I would tell her to, again, live more in the moment. I think at 20, we're focused on the future very much so, and what it's going to bring, and where we're supposed to be, and what we told we're supposed to be, and where, parents, and where we think we ought to be. So I would not be so worried about where you are at that moment. It's going to be a path for each of us. Your job today may not be your job tomorrow, Doesn't mean not to give it your best. It doesn't mean not to have a focus. It just means things aren't going to be always set in stone, and they're not going to be forever. So don't worry about that. Less worry is a great lesson I would tell myself. Something that I would tell myself to do is probably to travel more and to get out of your bubble. I didn't do that as much as I wanted to. In my 20s, I was very focused on school and, again, academics, getting good grades. Grades are important. Yeah, they are. Schools need them. Institutions look at them. But it's about your well-roundedness and, your ability to see things differently. What impact can you make? What do you bring to the table? Where's your value? It's so much more than that. And gosh, I wish I would have understood that more back then. I didn't.
Oh, nice nuggets there. And Pam, just kind of summarizing some of your main points and looking back on the things you've experienced in your life and accomplished, what would you say is your philosophy on life and success?
Thank you for asking. I'm more about understanding yourself and taking that understanding and using it to your best benefit for your own self, your own physical body, and helping others. I believe we all need that. And connectivity isn't so key. Someone asked me once, because my business is fairly new, it's about a year old, and I'm really just starting to ramp it up. And someone said, well, what about your competitors? What about them? And I said, I don't have competitors. I don't look at life like that. I look at it as people maybe of like-mindedness, people maybe on my same wavelength, but their channel is different. And it's a whole different shift in how we see things. So if we can all embrace that and know that we are so unique and we all have something so special that God or the universe has given us. So click into that, because not just because it's fun and you're going to love what you're doing and it's not going to seem like work, but the bigger deal is it's going to make you so much healthier. It's going to feed your body like no vitamin, like, no sports drink or no protein powder could, It is going to bring you happiness and make you laugh and even, have you laugh at yourself a little bit. But you're human. Don't take yourself so seriously, right?
Music to my ears. I like that, Pam. And now let's move into things that you're working on today. You said you got a lot of things going on, so it sounds like you're really busy.
I do. That's been typically my life. Since I was very young, my mom used to say to me, you've got a million things you're juggling, And I still do today. And I'm like, okay, this must be something about me. But I do like to have a lot going on. It is really a part of me. So for my business, as I mentioned, I'm revamping my website. Just launched my intro video, which I'm going to be using as a calling card because I really want to speak to corporations and present to companies, especially forward-thinking companies, to help their employees and their management understand this bigger picture of health and wellness. It's really changing. And unfortunately, or fortunately, with the Affordable Care Act and all of its change and confusion, both managers and employees are at odds what to do with insurance and their health, and it's caused craziness. So I think that my messaging can be very instrumental in helping them understand where the shift of wellness is going, and they have to sort of now really begin to accept the onus. The onus is on you now. I mean, insurance companies aren't going to pay you, when you're not taking care of your own body. They're going to say, no, thank you. So it's really shifted. And that's what I'm working on doing is creating presentations for the corporate market, as well as continuing to do podcasting. I blog for Huffington Post, which has been such a fun experience. And I'm most recently involved in a project where I am working on creating a white paper. I'm interviewing various people in very high stress jobs, life and death sort of jobs, like trauma room attendants, nurses, air traffic controllers, paramedics, EMTs. These are folks that deal with life and death every single day, or the possibility of, I should say. And I want to learn how they deal with stress. They're in it. That's stress. That's a car breakdown or a broken fingernail is not stress, although to some of us it is. So I'm hopefully through my learning, I can share with others how to shift their perspective on what's stressful and how to be more adaptable to life.
Yeah, you're doing great things, and I could feel your passion just by looking at you through the computer, and
Thank
just
you.
how you look when you're talking about what you want to do and accomplish.
Yeah, I really feel that, Andrew. Thank you. I really do. I mean, and I think that's what I want people to see and to feel. It's the best feeling. It sounds like you're on that path as well, though.
Thank you. And Pam, go ahead and give yourself a plug so the audience can connect with you moving forward.
Thank you. You can connect with me on my website, passionately